He left 4 words in his study. We shall die on the same day. Only after sorting through his belongings did I learn he had loved Su-won for years. All his tenderness and favor toward me over the years were merely a ploy to seize my family's power and status. Paving a smooth path for Su-won. Hidden in a secret compartment of his study were stacks of portraits of Su-won. Filled with his endless longing. I had given him my whole heart for over a decade. Yet all he left me was a capital crime that doomed my entire household to confiscation and execution. Reborn. I watched the young man and girl beneath the peach blossom tree and sneered coldly. This lifetime, I would make sure they truly died on the very same day. Far sooner than they'd ever dreamed. When palace Imperial guards surrounded the Prime Minister's manor, I was hacking his corpse to pieces. Half an hour earlier, I'd brewed nourishing soup to bring to my husband in Jingchu, usually stationed at the study door. His personal servant An Young was nowhere to be seen. I called out twice to no reply, hesitating before pushing open the study door. What I saw next haunted me for the rest of my life. Blood spread across half the desk, and Jingchu lay lifeless over the wood. A faint smile lingering on his lips. I clutched my pounding heart, barely able to scream, before the mountain of paintings stole my breath away. Pictures large and small all depicted the same woman, her graceful figure captured standing, sitting, blooming from a tender teenage girl into a bewitching beauty, rendered with lifelike skill. One glance told me the painter's boundless affection for the woman in the scrolls. I recognized her instantly. Su-won. The noble consort whose beauty had reigned unrivaled in the capital for over a decade. That very morning, a palace messenger had arrived with news. Su-won, convicted of plotting to murder the imperial heir, had been forced to drink poisoned wine by the emperor. I knew Su-won and Jingchu were distant cousins, and fearing he would grieve deeply, I'd specially simmered soup to comfort him. I'd come expecting heartbreak, only to unearth his deepest secret. No wonder he never let me set foot in his study. Staring numbly at the paintings, I stepped toward Jingchu. A crushing agony squeezed my chest. Yet I could not tell if it stemmed from his death or his betrayal. Beneath his arm lay a scrap of paper, for freshly written characters smudged with his blood. Stark and horrifying. We shall die on the same day. A bitter laugh tore from my throat. Of course. Jingchu had once claimed they were cousins born on the exact same year, month and day, hence their unusually close bond. Now their bond would be sealed forever in death. Madam, what brings you here? This subordinate master. An Young rushed in, face drained of color in shock, when he spotted the 4 blood-stained words under Jingchu's arm. Comprehension flickered across his eyes. You knew all along. I locked eyes with him. An Young fell silent for 2 heartbeats. Master and the noble consort grew up side by side as childhood sweethearts. Their bond surpasses ordinary kinship. Sorrow crashed over me. What of me? I'd stood by his side for 10 years, lifting him from a destitute nobody to the all-powerful Prime Minister. I'd borne him a son and a daughter, raising them to be polite, bright children. I'd managed the manor's household finances flawlessly, currying connections for him and ensuring he never worried for silver. In the end, he'd killed himself for his childhood love, abandoning me and our children without a second thought. It was nothing short of ridiculous. In a mad, stubborn frenzy, I ransacked the tiny study, desperate to find even a shred of proof he'd cared for me and our children. As if that could soothe the raw wound in my chest, convince me a sliver of affection had lingered in his heart. At last, I found mention of us in the hidden compartment, yet the words only deepened my humiliation. Tucked inside were piles of exchanged letters between him and Su-won, overflowing with their passionate vows and longing for one another. As for me and our children, he'd written this. Xiaoshi is the Prime Minister's legitimate daughter, naive and easy to manipulate. Life within the palace is cruel. I must climb high office to shield you. My children with her exist only to silence gossip. My heart belongs to my bright moon, you know this full well. If you would flee this life with me, rank, wealth, wife and offspring mean nothing at all. I squeezed my eyes shut, fighting off light-headed dizziness. So this was the truth. He'd married me solely for my family's influence and my gullible nature. Our 2 children and I were disposable trash to him. How wonderful. Truly wonderful. I steadied myself, opening my eyes to meet Anyang's pitying gaze. Tell me everything else there is to know. Anyang heaved a long sigh. The troops the noble consort used to plot against the Imperial prince were deployed on master's orders. Dizziness washed over me in an instant. Hatred for Suwon and Jingchu blazing hot behind my eyes. And Jingchu. Eyes bloodshot. I wrenched the short blade from his neck and stabbed his body again and again. Plotting to kill an Imperial heir carried not just execution, but collective punishment for the entire clan. No wonder Anyang had laid bare all his secrets to me. Not a soul in the Prime Minister's manor would escape death. And Jingchu had chosen to die for his lover and drag hundreds of us down with him. He deserved to die 1,000 times over. Yet no amount of hacking his corpse could hold back the marching Imperial guards. Miss. It's young master in. The carriage ground to a sudden halt. I lifted the curtain and stared at the man standing before the manor gates. And Jingchu cut a tall, elegant figure in plain gray linen robes. His bearing as refined as orchid and jade. Maids and young ladies from nearby noble manors peeked at him covertly. This was my first sight of Jingchu since my rebirth. In my past life. His suicide had brought Imperial guards slaying every soul in my manor. I'd watched my boy and girl draw their last breaths before my eyes. I hated Jingchu with every fiber of my being. In the half-month since waking anew, I'd ached to butcher him and Suwon on the spot. But I could not. And Jingchu had already topped the Imperial examinations as Zhuangyuan, holding official rank. A quick death would be far too merciful for him. Young master what business brings you here? And Jingchu paused, bowing deeply, feigning gentle concern. I heard Miss Qiao fell unwell recently. Worried for your health. I came to pay my respects. I said nothing. My father headed the civil officials, revered across the realm for his literary talent. When scholars flooded the capital for the Imperial exams, most sent their finest poetry and essays to admired senior officials to seek patronage. And Jingchu had delivered his own works to my father. My father had praised his writing lavishly. After Jingchu became top scholar, father, valuing talent, invited him to banquets at the manor. That was how we met. After that, he called frequently, ostensibly to discuss scholarship with father, though every discerning eye saw his true aim was me. Before long, noble households across the capital whispered the Prime Minister's daughter and the Zhuangyuan were destined to wed. In my past life, blinded by Jingchu's act, I'd only flushed shyly at the rumors, never suspecting deceit. Now I knew full well he'd spread those whispers himself. For half a month since my rebirth, I'd turned him away at every visit. Frustrated, he'd laid siege to my gate today. Thank you for your concern, young master I am fully recovered. I stepped down from the carriage and brushed past him toward the manor doors. Wait. And Jingchu called out, holding out a wrapped parcel. I heard Miss Qiao favors osmanthus cake from South City. I bought them fresh just now. Still warm. I hope you will not spurn the small gift. I glanced at the box, then at Jingchu's anxious face. A faint smirk tugging my lips. Thank you for your trouble. Before he could relax in relief, I shot a look to my maid Xianger. Xianger understood, pulling a silk pouch and pouring out a string of copper coins, holding them out to Jingchu. Lord that will be 46 won. Correct. And Jingchu stared in disbelief, stumbling back a step. Miss Qiao, this take them. I cannot accept gifts for free. I paused, adding coolly, you queued in person to deliver them. You deserve extra labor pay. Xianger, add another 10 won. And Jingchu's face paled, his fingers clenching tight. I turned and walked inside. Xianger stuffed the coins into his arms and hurried after me. Miss, what of the osmanthus cake? Throw it away. As you command. As the manor gate slammed shut, I glanced back to see Jingchu rooted to the spot. Wounded shock etched across his face. Scattered crumbs of osmanthus cake littered his feet. The neighborhood surrounding the manor housed only high-ranking nobles, where news traveled faster than wind. Within an hour of me embarrassing Jingchu, half the capital's aristocratic households knew the tale. When father returned home that evening, he could not help questioning me. Not long ago you thought well of that young man, why do you shun him so utterly now? I saw no need to hide the truth from him. I told him plainly Jingchu had a cousin, Su Wan, and the two had long pledged their love to one another. Father's expression darkened, falling into a long silence. At last he sighed. I misjudged his character. Mother had passed away years prior, and father was a man of steadfast devotion. He poured all his energy into court affairs, never remarrying or taking concubines, with no legitimate son. Even as powerful prime minister, he posed no threat to the imperial family. As his only daughter, noble clans had sent matchmakers from my 13th year onward. Father feared once he passed, I would lack powerful family support, hence his extreme caution over my marriage. He'd once deemed Jingchu a man of sterling character, never guessing how deeply he hid his scheming heart. Forget him. A mere common-born scholar with such twisted ambition cannot be virtuous. I shall seek a far better match for you. I smiled, my heart aching at the streaks of gray threading his hair. He had loved mother fiercely. Were it not for me, he would have followed her to the grave long ago. In my past life, the year after I married Jingchu, I fell with child. Not long after our son's birth, father passed away peacefully, dying fully convinced Jingchu would care for me for a lifetime. He died without a single doubt. Blind to Jingchu's evil schemes, I poured him a cup of warm water to soothe his spirits. I am still young. I wish to stay by your side a while longer. Father, do not rush my marriage. If no suitable man appears, I could always take a Livian son-in-law. Father chided with a laugh. Nonsense, what honorable man would agree to wed into his wife's household? Then find an unremarkable man, so long as his face and morals pass muster. It matters not his station. Worst comes to worst, I could bear an heir without tying the knot, and let my child inherit the Chiao line. Father stared stunned at my unorthodox words, speechless for a long moment, lifting his hand to tap my forehead. Suddenly, a commotion erupted outside the hall. What is the racket? A flicker of intuition stirred in me. It must be an imperial edict. An edict. Whatever for. Before the words faded, palace messengers stepped through the door, followed by carts brimming with gold, pearls, jade and priceless ornaments. Father knelt and dragged me down beside him to listen to the decree. Once it ended, he turned to me in shock. You saved Princess Zhaoping. I had indeed. Princess Zhaoping, the Empress's birth daughter, Crown Prince's younger sister, and the Emperor's most beloved youngest princess. In my past life, 80-year-old Zhaoping had snuck out of the palace with the Crown Prince, only to be abducted by human traffickers due to his carelessness. By the time Imperial guards found her, she was dead. The Emperor had vented his rage on the Crown Prince. The Empress had fallen deathly ill, and it was then Su Wan had seized her chance to enter the palace. In the half-month since Rebirth, I'd sent servants to track the Crown Prince's movements. Learning he planned to take Zhaoping out that day, I'd acted fast. I had rescued the princess before harm could strike. That night, endless gifts poured into the manor from the Emperor, Empress and Crown Prince, alongside an invitation to the 100 Flowers banquet. The banquet was hosted to select consorts for the 3 adult imperial princes, gathering noble maidens and talented young gentlemen from across the capital. In my past life, Zhaoping had already perished by the banquet date. The Empress bedridden with grief, leaving the Grand Empress Dowager to preside. Su Wan, using her tie as Jingchu's cousin, scraped into the guest list. Unchosen by any prince, she'd stumbled upon the drunken emperor alone in the gardens. His intoxication and her calculated seduction aligned perfectly. No prince's bride emerged that day, only Su Wan, soon to be the most favored noble consort in the palace. Now Zhaoping lived, and the Empress would host the banquet herself. I wondered if Su Wan would still find her lucky break. The banquet was held at an imperial villa on the capital's outskirts. I arrived early, and a senior lady-in-waiting of the Empress hurried to greet me with a wide smile. The Crown Prince and Princess Zhaoping were already present. The Empress's face was warm and affectionate as she pulled me into conversation. Poor child, your mother left you young, and the Prime Minister drowns himself in state affairs with no lady to guide you in society. I can scarce recall the last time I saw you bloomed into such a lovely young woman now. Father preferred to keep me far from Imperial power struggles, fearing I would be used as a pawn. So he rarely let me attend palace feasts, least of all a banquet meant for prince bride selection. I had not joined this feast in my past life. My last audience with the Empress had been the New Year Palace banquet when I was 10. The Empress studied me carefully, growing increasingly pleased, then asked after my betrothal, whether I held affection for anyone. When I ducked my head shyly and denied any attachment, her smile softened further, her gaze drifting subtly to the seated crown prince beside her. Your father has only you as his heir, and would never wish you hardship. Marriage is no trivial matter, so you must choose wisely. There are countless fine gentlemen gathered today. Take your time to observe them all. I feigned ignorance, staring at my shoes demurely. Soon noble ladies arrived to pay respects, and the Empress waved us off to wander the grounds, bidding the crown prince specifically, "This is Miss Chiao's first visit to the villa. Escort her well, do not slight her." The crown prince bowed in assent. Once outside the hall, he inclined his torso to greet me formally. "I have yet to thank you properly for saving Xiaoping." I stepped aside respectfully. "Your Highness, it was merely a trivial act. Trivial to you, but life-changing for me. The Emperor and Empress, whatever aid you may require in future, speak freely to me." I met his earnest eyes, silently amused. Clever as he was, he must have seen the Empress's matchmaking intent. Fearing I would leverage my favor to demand marriage into the Eastern Palace, I'd witnessed his tender, loyal bond with his future crown princess in my past life. I would never insert myself between them. Still, aligning the Chiao household with the crown prince was a wise move. I feigned thoughtful hesitation. "There is a small favor I might dare ask of your Highness." "Speak." "Miss Chiao, I have 2 elder male cousins, both capable scholars yet cursed with poor fortune. They share father's upright, unyielding temperament, refusing to bow and scrape for official posts. I cannot bear to see their years of diligent study wasted. Might I humbly beg you to recommend them for minor official roles?" Requesting promotions for 2 kin was no great burden. Moreover, father had always maintained strict neutrality, forbidding clan members from aligning with rival princes. My words sent a clear signal. I would not demand marriage as repayment. Yet the Chiao family leaned toward supporting the crown prince. Sure enough, the light brightened the crown prince's face, and he agreed at once. The crown prince's duties soon summoned him away, leaving 2 royal guards and palace maids to attend me. I wandered the gardens hand in hand with Xiaoping, who clung to me fondly, chattering nonstop about her new trinkets and the terror of her abduction. I comforted her, wandering as if truly seeing the villa for the first time until soft murmurs drifted from a secluded grove ahead. Xiaoping and I froze, exchanging a glance. A girl's tearful voice carried on the breeze. "Jing Gij, Wanner knows I owe you everything. Yet I cannot let my mother's death go unavenged. We are fated to part in this life. In the next, I will repay you tenfold with my whole life." Beneath a peach blossom tree stood Suwan, frail as willow, sobbing uncontrollably. Exquisite face streaked with glistening tears enough to melt any man's heart. Must it truly come to this? Wait for 5 years. No, only 3. In 3 years I will surely have the power to avenge you. Suwan shook her head. It is impossible. The Wang clan holds power unmatched. Only the emperor can stand against them. If the Wangs discover me alive, they will kill me and drag you down with me too. Blame me, Jing Gij, if you must. A beauty weeping, utterly pitiful, and Jingchu reached out, brushing her tears with aching tenderness. How could I blame you? It is my fault, my weakness. I cannot shield you from this pain, forcing a fragile girl like you to scheme alone. I am useless. Wanner. No, Jing Gij is the kindest man alive. To Wanner. You are unmatched in greatness, moved beyond restraint, and Jingchu kissed the tears sliding down her cheeks. Heedless they stood within the Empress's private gardens. Cold contempt curdled in my chest. In my past life, and Jingchu had written of this very moment to Suwan in a letter, calling it the happiest and saddest day of my life. happy to have kissed his beloved. Heartbroken, he was sending her into the emperor's bed. He had even detailed this exact peach blossom grove in his note, making it impossible for me to miss their tryst. Certain the palace maids and royal guards had witnessed every second. I pretended embarrassment, clapping a hand over Xiaoping's eyes and leading her away. Only once we rounded a winding path did I lower my hand. Xiaoping's eyes bulged wide. Qiao Jijie. Was that improper intimacy? It was, I suppose. They are young and fond of one another. It is understandable to lose self-control. Xiaoping pouted. You are too soft-hearted. Qiao Jijie. Our tutor says affection must stay within bounds. Even if smitten, they ought not behave so brazenly here. I smiled without reply. Xiaoping, sharp for her age, huffed and added. Father praised Lord in the Zhuangyuan for his upright, disciplined conduct. Now I see he is just as flawed as anyone. Who was that woman? I have never seen her before. She spoke of a blood feud with the Wangswich clan. Xiaoping's curiosity burned, and I offered no hints. She resolved to ask the Empress directly. The Empress's face darkened instantly upon hearing the tale. Many powerful clans bore the surname Wang, yet only one held power so great even the Emperor trod carefully. The Empress's natal clan, the Duke Ding household. She dispatched servants to investigate at once. Before the investigators returned, the banquet bell rang. The Empress brought Xiaoping and me to the main feast garden, where noble ladies and eligible gentlemen filled the space, all casting curious, judging glances my way. Most young maidens vied for the crown prince's favor, so arriving at the Empress's side naturally stirred whispers. I stayed close to the Empress, playing with Xiaoping rather than mingling with the crowd, fueling wild speculation among the guests. I counted the minutes silently. Midway through the feast, I stepped to the changing chambers, stepping back out, and Jingchu blocked my path. Lord in. I nodded politely, ready to walk past, and Jingchu grabbed my sleeve abruptly. He hesitated, then spoke. Miss Qiao, are you fond of the crown prince? Naturally. The crown prince is wise, heroic, heir apparent. Every woman in the realm admires him. I replied calmly. I admire the emperor, the empress, and every loyal servant of our realm too. And Jingchu choked on his words. That is not what I mean. Then do you mean you bear no admiration for the crown prince? And Jingchu pressed his lips tight. I grew impatient to leave, until he blurted. Miss Qiao, you are innocent, and your father is uncorrupted. The palace is rife with treachery. You ought not wade into that mire. A mocking laugh escaped me, my gaze raking over him from head to toe. Lord in. My Qiao household's affairs are none of your concern. Furthermore, recklessly speculating on imperial kin carries the death penalty. I mimed a beheading gesture, satisfied to watch his face bleach white, then turned and left. The villa teemed with palace imperial guards that day, security far tighter than usual. After Xiaoping told the Empress of Jingchu and Suwan's tryst, the Empress's spies watched their every move, telling how many hidden listeners lingered in the gardens. Back at my seat, barely a cup of tea passed before a maid hurried to the Empress's side, whispering rapidly in her ear. The Empress's face flushed with rage, rising to storm outside. Pausing, she glanced at Xiaoping and me, gesturing for us to follow. Xiaoping followed obediently, confused, as our large retinue swept through a bamboo grove to a small courtyard. Stepping inside, we saw a middle-aged man in purple official robes slouched in a garden chair, robes unbuttoned, dead drunk, cheeks flushed feverishly. Beside him sat a woman with disheveled clothing, leaning in to press herself against the emperor. The Empress's sudden arrival made the woman snap her head up, her tear-streaked face crafted to evoke instant pity. The emperor lifted his bleary head, irritation flashing when he saw the Empress. Yet he rose slowly to straighten his robes. The Empress ought to preside over the main feast. Why have you come here? Before the Empress could speak, Xiaoping tilted her head, staring at Suwan. You look familiar. She snapped her fingers. I remember now, you are the woman who was being affectionate with Lord in the Zhuangyuan in the gardens earlier. Suwan's complexion drained of all color. The emperor sobered at once, narrowing his eyes. What did you say? Zhao Ping trotted to climb onto the emperor's lap, leaning close to study Su Wan before nodding firmly. Father, I saw them clear as day. They hugged and kissed, talking about avenging her mother's murder by the Wang clan, saying only you could give her justice. I wanted to ask more, but Xiao Zhijie covered my eyes and pulled me away, saying we ought not watch something improper. She ignored Su Wan, who had crumpled to her knees sobbing, tilting her head to press further. You said you needed father's help. He is here now. What blood feud with the Wangs? Tell him. He is the highest authority in the land. Su Wan stayed silent, shoulders shaking with quiet weeping. The emperor's eyes narrowed sharply on her. Sharp-witted as he was, he instantly grasped this chance encounter had been meticulously plotted. Su Wan was undeniably beautiful, pleasing to his eye, but he could command any beauty in the empire. Imperial authority could never be toyed with. He waved for servants to launch an investigation. With support from the crown prince and empress's spies, the truth unraveled fast. And Jing Chu, serving as a palace advisor with the emperor's trust, had leaked the emperor's schedule to Su Wan, orchestrated her entry to this remote courtyard, and even manipulated the wine to get the emperor drunk. I shook my head at Jing Chu's recklessness. The depth of his devotion to Su Wan staggering, yet plotting to kill an imperial heir had been no barrier to him in my past life. This scheme paled in comparison, and Jing Chu was dragged into the courtyard moments later, at the sight of the assembled nobles and Su Wan prostrate and weeping. He understood everything instantly. He dropped to his knees, forehead pressed flat to the stone. This subject is guilty, the emperor sneered. Guilty of what crimes, Lord? And speak plainly. And Jing Chu took full blame onto himself, claiming only greedy ambition drove him to offer a beauty for the emperor's harem. The empress cut in coldly. Odd. I heard this Su Wan bears a blood feud with the Wangs over her mother's murder. What grudge could drive you two star-crossed lovers to split apart just so she might plead her case before the throne? And Jing Chu stared at the ground without reply. Su Wan only cried harder. Yet uncovering her origins was trivial for Imperial investigators. Su Wan's birth mother had been a maid to Duchess Ding, while the Duchess carried her own child. The maid had seduced the Duke, betraying her mistress. Enraged, the Duchess had sent the maid away with human traffickers' lawful punishment for a runaway servant. The maid escaped her captors only to discover she bore Su Wan. She'd struggled for years to scrape together funds to return to the capital with her daughter, dying of hardship when Su Wan turned 8 mid-journey, and Jing Chu's mother had taken the orphaned girl in. Years later, Su Wan glimpsed the Duchess Ding's grand procession through the streets. Consumed by bitter envy that a fellow Wang blood lived in luxury while she starved, she fabricated a tale of her mother being murdered by the Wangs, and in Jing Chu, overcome with pity, had believed every lie, devoting himself entirely to advancing her schemes. By law, the Duchess's punishment of the maid had been legitimate. The real crimes were Su Wan's runaway servitude and the pair's plot to manipulate the emperor. I and the empress waited for harsh punishment. Yet the emperor stunned us all by choosing to sweep the mess under the rug. She bears Duke Ding's blood after all. It is a tragedy she suffered such hardship. This is merely a misunderstanding. Resolved now. Lord and scholarly talent is remarkable. Misled as he was, I value gifted many shall overlook this offense. And Jing Chu and Su Wan stared up at him in stunned shock. The emperor smiled, gaze heavy and calculating as he studied the pair. Let me play the benevolent ruler and unite these two ill-fated lovers. I shall bestow an imperial marriage edict upon you both. I caught the hungry glint in the emperor's eye as he looked at Su Wan, and realized the truth. He desired her for himself, and Jing Chu received a promotion. Yet his new higher rank carried only empty prestige, clear demotion and real power, transferred away from his close post beside the emperor to a meaningless sinecure. Still, he would wed Su Wan, now recognized as a restored daughter of Duke Ding's household, seemingly poised to climb high with the Duke Ding clan backing him. Clueless court officials flocked to offer congratulations, and Jing Chu and Su Wan's wedding drew a full house of guests, even the emperor himself in attendance. Father attended too, returning home with a brooding expression. I handed him a cup of hangover tea. What troubles you, father? Lord and looked utterly miserable today. A wedding and promotion. Two of life's greatest joys. How could he be unhappy? No other official could fathom it. Yet a suspicion flickered in my mind. The emperor had been a competent sovereign in his youth, but age had muddled his judgment. In my past life, blind obsession with Suwon had driven him to reckless, foolish choices. Fracturing his bond with the empress and splitting the court into warring factions, emboldening Suwon enough to poison the imperial grandson. Though I knew little of statecraft, I'd navigated father's old political connections after his death to boost Jingchu's career. Learning all the undercurrents of court intrigue along the way, armed with foresight, I easily predicted what would unfold next. I guided my two cousin scholars, now aligned firmly with the crown prince. With my timely warnings and advice, they rose swiftly in his favor, gaining greater trust and authority by the month. Father did not notice their frequent visits at first, yet once he uncovered my involvement, he pulled me aside for a serious talk. I have always kept our Chao clan neutral amid imperial faction fights. The princes have all reached adulthood. Bloodshed and scheming lie ahead. Sure, we ought not entangle ourselves. Once I had believed father's path of pure, impartial service to the realm was noble, yet reality had taught me a bitter lesson. After his death in my past life, his legacy faded instantly. No official dared speak a word for me or my children when Jingchu's treason brought ruin. When imperial guards came to slaughter our household, no one remembered I was the prime minister's daughter, only the wife of a condemned traitor. Even the death exemption token father had left me proved useless. The guards refused to acknowledge it, for the emperor had long since deemed the Chao clan worthless. Stripped of power and leverage, our manor ran red with blood, ignored by all until nightfall, when distant clan kin sneaked in to bury my children and me. Father served the nation selflessly, but I would secure lasting power for the Chao household. If history repeated itself, the imperial court would think twice before striking at us. Factional strife was terrifying, yet far better than facing annihilation with no allies to call on. I dared not lay out my full past life trauma to father, instead laying out the risks and rewards of backing the crown prince, outlining his virtuous character and high odds of ascending the throne. Father fell silent for a long while, then sighed softly. I see all this clearly enough. My only wish is a quiet, untroubled life for you, daughter. My throat ached at his graying hair. He thought he could shield me from every harm for all my days, both in this life and the last. Relying on others will never last. Father, not every man loves his wife as you loved mother. Even if you find me a seemingly trustworthy husband now, what will become of me once you are gone? If we align ourselves wisely now, the Chao clan will stand as my unshakable support no matter what comes. Father frowned. Your cousins. I harbor doubts over their loyalty. He had clashed bitterly with the clan for years, refusing concubines and bearing only a single daughter, angering kin hungry for male heirs and power. I smiled reassuringly. Rest assured, Father, I have chosen only the most dependable among them. The emperor showered in Jingchu with rapid promotions 3 times in 3 months. Alongside mountains of gold and silk, yet every new post held no real governing power. Officials grew confused by the emperor's contradictory treatment. Yet the sovereign's frequent private visits to Jingchu's manor were undeniable, sensing which way the wind blew. Dozens of nobles curried favor within Jingchu. Inevitably, gossip about his household spread through official circles. 3 months later, winter cold settled in, and news spread that Suwon carried a child. Eager sycophants rushed to congratulate Jingchu, only to be met with a scowl and cold silence. Why is Lorden so surly? They muttered among themselves. He and his wife were supposed to be devoted childhood sweethearts. How can he resent her pregnancy? Is Suwon not officially recognized as Dupding's daughter, his lawfully wedded wife? The officials' confusion faded fast as a rumor exploded across the capital, and Jingchu's wife had committed adultery, and the child in her womb was not his. The entire court buzzed with whispers, looking at Jingchu with unspoken pity. The more they sympathized, the blacker Jingchu's mood grew. One bitter freezing dawn, Jingchu lost balance riding to court. Tumbling from his horse and breaking his leg, he set off long before dawn with no servant beside him. Father recounted to me that evening. He lay injured for an hour in the bitter cold before passers-by found him. frozen stiff. He spiked a high fever for days after. Father added quietly, "The court feels only sympathy for his misfortune." I chuckled. Perhaps Lord N's fall was intentional at the very least. It spared him facing his peers' pitying stares at court. Father narrowed his eyes at me. "That rumor. Is there truth to it? If Su-won betrayed him, why has he not divorced her or ended the pregnancy? If it is a lie, why has he not sent men to hunt down the slanderers?" I knew what he suspected. Answering softly, "He cannot divorce her, cannot abort the child, and dares not pursue the rumor unless the rumor holds truth. And the adulterer holds power far too great for him to cross." I trailed off mid-sentence. Father drew a deep breath, sipping his tea slowly, his mind connecting the dots. Only one man fit the description. The Emperor, who had visited N's manor endlessly these past months. "Did you spread that rumor?" Father asked plainly. I shook my head. "Not directly. I would never risk dragging the Chiao clan into open conflict with the throne. I merely passed a few observations to my cousins to relay to the crown prince." Father said nothing, rubbing the rim of his teacup in deep thought. He had served the emperor faithfully for decades, and the sovereign had treated him well as a lone minister with no clan army behind him. Father was trusted more than the mighty Duke Ding. Yet in recent years, the emperor's judgment had faltered, and their political disagreements had multiplied. Even so, Father had never imagined his sovereign would stoop to stealing a subject's wife. He pondered long, then murmured, "We wait and watch." If Father had deduced the truth, the rest of the court soon followed. Rumors swelled louder, spilling into city streets. The emperor had stolen his minister's wife, and the unborn heir might carry imperial blood, a stain on the line of succession. Whispers even claimed Jingchu's horsefall was no accident, that the emperor wished him dead to seize Su-won openly. Before the emperor could silence the chatter, 6 elder censors stepped forward to remonstrate with him, risking their lives to plead for imperial virtue. Their words enraged the emperor utterly. 2 elderly officials smashed their heads against stone pillars and died on the spot. 3 suffered grave injuries. The 6th tore off his official hat, begging to retire at once. The emperor responded with cruel punishment, stripping all 6 of their honorary titles, docking half a year's salary, even forcing the dead men's families to pay the fines. The entire court fell deathly silent, cowed into obedience. Father returned home that night sighing for hours, locking himself in his study until dawn. Over breakfast the next morning, he abruptly asked, "What does the crown prince intend to gain from all this?" The crown prince aimed for the throne. Of course. He was virtuous and capable, poised to rule unopposed in my past life until Su-won's scheming and the emperor's senile bias crushed him, even costing his infant son's life. Tensions between the emperor and empress had ignited the moment the sovereign ordered Su-won wed with full Duchess Ding wedding rights. Recognizing a vengeful maid's illegitimate daughter as a noble heir was a direct insult to the Duke Ding clan, the empress's blood family. The Dings had simmered with unspoken rage ever since. This adultery scandal was the perfect powder keg. Disaster struck soon after. Heavy snow devastated northern provinces. Freezing rain ruined southern farmlands. Nomad raiders harried the northwest border, and drought-parched eastern prefectures. Natural disasters struck across the realm all at once. A rare convergence of crises. Pleas for flood and famine relief piled high on the emperor's desk, alongside ever-spreading folk tales. Heaven punished the realm for an immoral, tyrannical emperor who stole his vassal's wife and tainted royal bloodlines. As public unrest boiled over, 2 provincial princes with military forces rose in rebellion, their armies sweeping south and north unopposed, capturing city after city. The emperor spiraled into panic, scrambling to deploy troops to crush the uprising, yet his best-standing army belonged to the Duke Ding faction. His only viable fighting force left. Forced into submission, the emperor begged the empress for reconciliation and aid. Su-won died swiftly, her unborn child slain alongside her in a public street, her killer vanishing without a trace. And Jingchu did not report the murder, nor claim her body. He ordered servants to wrap her corpse in cheap cloth and dump it in the mass unmarked burial ground outside the city. Then he shut himself indoors, claiming crippling illness from his leg injury. Duke Ding's troops failed to halt the rebel advance. which drew ever closer to the capital, filling the city with dread. I toured the Qiao family's shops and warehouses, stockpiling supplies for crisis. On my ride back to the manor, I crossed paths with Jingchu. He was gaunt and haggard, yet his eyes held a hardened, sharp new depth. He stood beneath my carriage, staring up. A faint arrogant tilt still to his frame. Sure, we must speak. He had been reborn too, I realized instantly. Speak with him. I let a cold sneer curve my lips, raising a hand to my guards. Seize him. I would never again be the docile, besotted Xiao of our past life. Hidden guards surged forward, pinning Jingchu to the ground in seconds. Stunned, he knelt, craning his neck to shout up at me. I know you returned too. Xiao, you altered fate. Northern snow was mild this year. The northwest raids were not due yet. Southern freezing rain was supposed to hit next month. You conspired with Duke Ding's clan. Cut out his tongue. Feed it to the hounds. He knew far too much. Yet foolishly thought he could manipulate me as before. Some passerby must have overheard his shouts, or he had sent secret letters to the emperor beforehand for the next dawn. Imperial guards ringed my manor walls. The guard captain bore an edict ordering the Qiao household arrested. Our lands seized. Our clan condemned to execution, mirroring the catastrophe of my past life. This time, we were not defenseless. As the guards drew their blades, a roar erupted outside. My burly elder clan uncle charged forward with a broadsword, beheading the captain in one blow. Warm arterial blood splattered across my cheeks, far fouler smelling than the blood I'd seen spilled in my past life. Thank you, third uncle. How fares the city? The rebels have broken through the gates unopposed, marching straight for the palace. I smiled. Our plan had succeeded. The emperor took his own life, leaving a written confession of his misdeeds posted above the capital city gates to calm rioting commoners. A handful of old loyalist officials questioned the authenticity of his testament. Yet the rebel army had sworn fealty to the crown prince. Newly enthroned as emperor, official narratives were polished and distributed nationwide. Dissenters had no ground to stand on. The new emperor rewarded all who aided his ascension. Father voluntarily resigned from his prime minister post. Yet my cousins rose to fill critical civil and military offices. The Qiao household, once a quiet neutral clan, now wielded unmatched influence in court. Once all power transfers settled, I escorted father away from the chaotic capital to our ancestral clan lands. Court alliances needed tending, and kin owed us debts of gratitude for their promotions. Before long, the elderly clan patriarch stepped down, naming father his successor. Freed from imperial state burdens, father's health and spirit brightened visibly, and I breathed easy knowing he would not meet an early grave as he had in my past life. With life settling into peace, father turned back to fretting over my marriage. He now saw wisdom in my earlier words, ready to arrange a Livian son-in-law from a rank irrelevant. Only decent character and looks required. If the match faltered, I could raise an heir alone to inherit the Qiao line. Even so, countless suitors lined up, and father sifted through every candidate with care. I took no hurry. I had far more interesting pastimes to occupy my nights. My courtyard sat on the manor's quieter edge, backed by wooded hills, with a hidden dungeon deep within the garden. After dark, I descended to the cell, in pitch-black darkness, and Jingchu had long lost track of days and nights, collapsed like rotting meat on a pile of straw. He stirred at the sound of my footsteps, sending 2 scurrying rats darting into the shadows. Sure, his voice was faint, gasping with desperate supplication. Kill me. I beg you, kill me. Death would be far too merciful. I took a sharp blade handed to me by a servant, stabbing carefully into one of the few unrotted patches of skin on his body. You cared nothing for human lives once. You gambled with hundreds of our household's lives for Suwon sake. I thought you fearless. Why do you cower so now? I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please. Spare me. Curled my lip in disdain. Begging changes nothing. And Jingchu, you owe hundreds of lives, including our own son and daughters. A quick end will never repay that debt. Suffer. Your torment has barely begun. I stood, issuing orders to the guards. Send a healer to dress his wounds. Do not let him die. A swift execution would let him escape his penance. Slow, endless, bone-gnawing agony was the only justice for the 100 slain because of him. My blameless children foremost among them. He would never get the easy release of death.